Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Hello, hello, hello. We're going to talk about the Washington Post today and an author named Faiz Siddiqui. And we're going to go through this article. This is a grossly misleading article about Tesla's autopilot, self driving software, full self driving, whatever name you want to choose for it, and the Washington Post or the Washington Rag or whatever name you want to assign to it. And Faiz Siddiqui or Faiz Lying Siddiqui, whatever name you want to apply to him. So, first thing, let's be clear about who Faiz Siddiqui is. He has been ragging and attacking Tesla since at least 2020, as best I can tell, maybe longer. Um, this is from back in 2021 when he was taking shots at Tesla and Tesla fans. Apparently, for some reason, Tesla fans were concerned about Missy Cummings being appointed to the NHTSA. And they bullied her off Twitter. This woman is a fighter pilot who will, as you'll see later, said she wanted to punch Elon Musk, but she got bullied off Twitter. That's the story he's telling. And you can see back in March of 2021, which is about 7 months before that previous one, he was reporting on Tesla Fremont and opening during COVID and oh my. And I just asked him the simple question, how many people died? How many were hospitalized? Because, when there's an industrial incident, industrial accident, the media will report this many people died, this many people were injured, this many people were hospitalized. Oddly, there's no reports of deaths or injuries or hospitalizations as a result of this. This is just this guy's job. He's paid by Jeff Bezos and the Washington Post to crap on Elon and crap on Tesla. That's what he does. That's his job. So let's dive into his news article. So let's go back to the title first. The title is 17 Fatalities, 736 Crashes. The shocking toll of Tesla's autopilot has been involved in far more crashes than previously reported. What do we get right in the beginning of the article? There's a description of an accident where somebody hit. There's a description of an accident where someone hit a 17-year-old stepping off a school bus driving a Tesla Model Y, the car allegedly in autopilot mode. Okay, so if your critical story that you're starting with is allegedly autopilot was involved, then this is a lying headline. This is a lying headline. Has been involved. Autopilot is not involved in the crash you're telling yet. Autopilot is allegedly involved in the crash that you're talking about. Allegedly involved. And we know multiple times there have been news stories about cars that were supposedly in self-driving mode that later turned out were not in self-driving mode. We know this has happened multiple times. There was a crash in Texas where they claimed it was in autopilot on a road that doesn't have a center line. Autopilot at the time, my FSD Beta would drive on a road without a center line, but this was not an FSD Beta car. Autopilot will not drive on a car without a center line, on a road without a center line. When you tell someone you're going to live stream starting at 1 p.m. and they text you at 1 p.m., just told you I'm live streaming at 1 p.m. Sorry. So, this is, emotional story. Now, this is another detail. The car supposedly struck Mitchell at 45 miles per hour. And he wasn't killed. And she says, if it had been a smaller child, the child would be dead. A 4,300-pound car hits a human at 45 miles an hour, and he's not dead? I was a car accident lawyer. That kind of collision at that speed, that much mass hitting a human body, he would have been dead. So it's, how do you know it struck him at 45 miles an hour? How did you come up with that number? This sounds like a lie. I'm not saying the accident didn't happen. I'm not saying the kid wasn't hurt. I'm just saying Faiz Siddiqui has a pattern of attacking Tesla, misleading facts, and just plain fucking lying. Excuse my French. I speak a little French today. you've been watching my Twitter, you'll know why I speak French today. The crash where a futuristic technology, is it a futuristic technology? I thought it was in trouble, came barreling down a rural highway. Barreling down a, you see the language. Faiz Siddiqui is trying to use evocative language to persuade. With devastating consequences, one of 736 crashes since 2019 involving Teslas in autopilot mode. You mean allegedly involving Teslas in autopilot mode? So, can you tell somebody you're live streaming at 1 p.m.? And then the number of such crashes has surged over the past 2 years, the data shows, reflecting the hazards associated with increasingly widespread use of Tesla's futuristic driver assistance technology, as well as the growing presence of cars on the nation's roadways. Well, let's be clear. The number of such alleged crashes, autopilot involved crashes, has grown because there's a lot more Teslas on the road. Every Tesla is equipped with autopilot. And we've gone from a much smaller number of Teslas on the road to a much larger number of Teslas on the road. Right? And we're going to see more later. There's this detail that's coming later where he talks about how most of the self-driving crashes that are being studied by NHTSA are Teslas. Like, well, yeah, number one, there's a lot more Teslas than there are other cars with that kind of technology. And number two, Tesla records all the data. Tesla actually gets all the data every day uploaded for each car. Your car pulls into your garage, it goes on Wi-Fi, even sometimes just on 5G or whatever, your car's going to upload that data. The other cars don't upload their data. They don't record the accidents. So there's so much misleading stuff here. And listen, Siddiqui knows this stuff. He pays attention to this stuff. He reads this stuff. He chooses to report it this way because he's a liar. So the number of deaths and serious injuries associated with autopilot, allegedly associated with autopilot, let's be clear, also has grown significantly, the data shows. The authorities first released a partial accounting of accidents involving autopilot in June 2022. They counted only 3 deaths definitively linked to the technology. The most recent data includes at least 17 fatal accidents, 11 of them since last May, and 5 serious injuries. Yeah, but the 17 fatal accidents are allegedly associated with autopilot. The first rate, look, it is true that in the early days of autopilot, there were a few accidents. There was one guy crashed into a wall. There was one guy crashed into a truck. I can think of 2 of them off the top of my head. The guy in California, it's actually, there's a picture of it later in the article. Somehow it hit like a wall separating traffic. These temporary concrete walls they put up and never take down. Right? That's one. And there's one in Florida, just north. I think it's either in Boca Raton or Delray Beach on US 441, where a truck was crossing the highway and the car didn't see it. And in both cases, the important detail is the driver wasn't paying attention. Okay, yes, autopilot wasn't perfect, but you're supposed to watch the road. I watch the road when autopilot drives for me. Am I perfect? No, I'm not perfect when I'm driving without autopilot. And what he leaves out, and another thing he leaves completely out, he'll kind of half mention it somewhere as a quote from Elon. You won't acknowledge that it's true, is that Teslas are safer than other cars. Teslas in general are safer than other cars, and Teslas on autopilot or FSD are safer than Tesla cars that are not on autopilot or FSD. But he's going to duck that one. So let's keep going. But again, the most recent data includes at least 17 fatal accidents. Yeah, that are not definitively caused by autopilot or FSD. They're investigating, and you're going to see him admit that they're investigating them. I think let's see. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has said that the cars operating on autopilot mode are safer than those piloted solely by human drivers, citing crash rates on the modes of driving are compared. That's not just Elon. That's the company. Now notice, Elon's the bad guy, right? He has to make Elon the bad guy. He can't acknowledge that it's the whole company that says this. It's in Tesla's reports. It's not in Elon's reports. It's in Tesla's reports that autopilot is safer and than driving without autopilot. But Elon Musk has said, not Tesla has reported in documents that could be checked and read. Does Faiz Siddiqui not read Tesla's impact report? Does he not read Tesla's documents? Does he not watch the AID presentations? I have no idea what this guy's doing. Is he deliberately lying? What's the story here? Elon has pushed the car maker to develop and deploy features programmed to maneuver the roads, navigating stop school buses, fire engines, stop signs, and pedestrians, arguing the technology will usher in a safer, virtually accident-free future. I don't think maneuver the roads is really the right kind of language there. To maneuver on the roads. To drive. It's to drive, okay? Do you need to come up with big words that don't really grammatically fit right? While it's impossible to say how many crashes may have been averted, the data shows clear flaws in the technology being tested in real time on American highways. The data shows clear evidence that many crashes have been averted. Like, I personally was driving my Model 3. Yeah, this was my Model 3. And I was coming through. I was living in a condo complex that was in the middle of retail complexes. It was this weird situation. There's an S-curve. And the car's entering, and it's about to bend right. And there's this hedge on the right. The hedge on the right side of the road. The car starts slowing down hard. And I'm about to hit the accelerator because I don't like phantom braking. And then I see the guy. The car saw the guy before I did. FSD has probably ducked 2 or 3 crashes for me in the time I've had it. I'm not perfect. It's not perfect. But it has very clearly avoided a lot of crashes for a lot of people. And he will not tell you that. He will say, Elon says blah, blah, blah. But then you notice how he diminishes it. While it's impossible to say how many crashes may have been averted. He could have said, while it appears that FSD has dramatically reduced the number of crashes, he says, it's impossible to say, but the data shows clear flaws in the technology being tested. Well, look, first of all, we all agree that there are clear flaws in FSD beta. You can watch FSD beta fan videos. We are critical of FSD beta ourselves. I don't like its lane change behavior still. There's still some phantom braking. It still doesn't handle flashing yellow lights. Here's what I will tell you. My driving of FSD beta, I would categorize it as there's 2 different kinds of interventions. An intervention where the human intervenes and says, stop doing that. There are crash interventions where the car is going to crash if you don't intervene, or you think it's going to crash if you don't intervene. And then there's like, I don't like that lane change. I don't like your navigation choice. I want to go faster innovations, convenience interventions, or disagreement interventions. I have a fair number of disagreement interventions. Sometimes I'm wrong, by the way. But I almost never have a crash intervention. That's almost 0. I was having a problem with a left turn a while ago in Cape Canaveral. I don't live there anymore, but I would come out this one road. Can't remember the names of the roads now. I think it's Atlantic at Astronaut Boulevard or something like that. And there's this weird left turn, and the car would start to make a right turn when it's supposed to make a left turn, and I had to take over. And then all of a sudden, it started doing it right because it's improving. Tesla's 17 fatal crashes revealed distinct patterns. The Post found 4 involved. By the way, he's going to mention this later. There's like 40,000 automobile deaths a year. And you got 17 over a period of like, what is this, like 10 years? 17 deaths over 10 years. That's like 1.7 deaths a year. You got 40,000 human driver deaths. And you're focused on 1.7 deaths a year. That's the problem. Not the human driver deaths. And of course, these 1.7 aren't really 1.7. We don't know how many of these are really caused by autopilot, if any. The Post found 4 involved a motorcycle. Yeah, motorcycle accidents tend to be fatal. They're more likely to be fatal because the motorcycle rider's unprotected. Another involved an emergency vehicle. Because human drivers never interact poorly with emergency vehicles. Meanwhile, some of Musk's decisions, such as widely expanding the availability of the features and stripping the vehicles of radar sensors, appear to have contributed to a reported uptick in incidents, according to experts who spoke with the Post. Okay, so let's be clear. My car's stopped using radar, and FSD has improved. Okay, so FSD has gotten better since they dropped radar. And they've explained this, that the radar is a noisy signal, and he just doesn't care. He doesn't watch. Either he doesn't watch the AID presentations, he doesn't understand them, or he doesn't care about the truth. I don't know how to explain this. They've removed radar. First of all, and they didn't strip the sensors from my cars. They just stopped using them. The reality is that I drive without radar. When I drive a car myself, I don't use radar. When you drive a car yourself, you don't use radar. You just drive the car. So FSD is driving the car without radar the same way that you and I do. It doesn't use LiDAR the same way you and I don't use LiDAR when we drive. My eyes don't have lasers going out and tagging all these objects and coming back with a point cloud. That's not how I drive. FSD drives the way humans drive, but better. So, and he describes it as Musk's decisions. Elon doesn't make these decisions alone. There's a team. You had Andrej Karpathy, you have Ashok Ellaswamy, you have a whole autopilot team. They went through everything. They looked at the numbers. They looked at everything. They decided, let's try this without radar. And they didn't switch back. They still had the radar in the cars at that point. They didn't switch back and go back to using radar because driving without radar is better than driving with radar, because the radar is the signal that confuses the car. It doesn't add meaningful value. Ethan says, not sure why you're talking about FSD when this article is about autopilot, making it patently a false article. All autopilot situations are the driver's responsibility. Well, no, the problem is that Siddiqui is careless in his use of autopilot, because he said widely expanding the availability of the features. Widely expanding the availability of the features is a reference to FSD beta. Okay? So he is being careless in how he's talking about it. Okay. So Tesla and Elon Musk did not respond to requests for comment. This is the pattern of behavior for Teslas. They don't respond to requests for comments, generally speaking. Now, listen, if Faiz Siddiqui had said, hey, Elon, I want to interview you about FSD, Elon might agree to that interview. He could interview me. He could interview Omar Kazi of Whole Mars blog. He could interview Chuck Cook. He could interview James Dalma. He could have asked to interview anybody well-established people in the Tesla community who regularly talk and not afraid to put our faces and our voices behind what we believe. He could have interviewed any of us as part of this interview, as part of this article. He chose not to. Well, I went to Tesla and Elon. You know that there are other people available who are happy to talk about. I don't even agree with some of the things Chuck Cook says about autopilot. He's been interviewed. I don't think Chuck really answers questions in the way I would answer them. But you have people you can go to. If you want to talk to us and you want to say, hey, I want to ask you about FSD beta, I would say I'm relatively speaking an expert compared to this idiot about understanding FSD beta, because I watch every AI Day presentation and I drive FSD beta on a regular basis. And I think I understand. I don't understand everything. James Dalma is a bigger expert than me. Omar's a bigger expert than me. Chuck is a bigger expert than me. You've got people you can go to if you want to ask people. But Tesla and Elon respond. It doesn't make sense, and it is a common strategy for companies to not respond to a hostile publication. The Washington Post and Faiz Siddiqui have established themselves as hostile to Tesla. If you respond to them, their tendency is to soundbite you. Because, he mentioned Elon Musk has said blah, blah. Well, Elon Musk has said a lot of things about FSD beta. Armermi says Rivian is the real reason why sales of Model X and S have plummeted. No, Rivian hasn't sold enough to explain that difference. So, yes, Jeff Bezos, Jeff who owns the Washington Post. National Highway Transportation Safety Administration said that a report of crash involving driver assistance does not itself imply that technology was the cause. You see how far down in the article he gets this? Look at this. Does not itself imply that the technology was the cause, has an active investigation. Okay, now wait a minute. Let's go back. Okay, right here, NHTSA has says it does not itself imply that technology was involved. What's the headline? The shocking toll of Tesla's autopilot has been involved in far more crashes than previously reported. Well, wait a minute. Wait. Let's go back here. I don't know how many screens I'm into this article. And now all of a sudden he acknowledges that the NHTSA says, wait a minute. And NHTSA reminds the public that all ADAS systems, advanced driver assistance systems, require the human driver to be in control and fully engaged in the driving task at all times. All state laws hold the human drivers responsible for the operation of their vehicles. Yep. He slipped that in there. Musk has repeatedly defended his decision to push driver assistance technology to Tesla owners, arguing the benefits outweigh the harm. because it does. Not just art. And again, Musk has repeatedly defended his decision. Tesla has repeatedly defended its decision. Tesla defends this decision, keeps making it. Elon is, pulling stuff out of his ass making these decisions. No, he has a team. They work together. They make decisions about what to do. Honestly, I think Elon, if it was just him, would be releasing features faster. And I think the Tesla team holds back. No, this isn't ready yet. Okay, now up here, I didn't include the picture, but this is emergency personnel work the scene where a Tesla electric SUV crashed into a barrier on Highway 101 in 2018. It's true that autopilot was partly responsible for the accident. The driver was also responsible for the accident because he was supposed to take over if the car did something wrong and he didn't take over, right? He wasn't paying attention at a crucial moment, or whatever happened. I pay attention to my car. If it makes a mistake, I catch it. I'm not perfect. I might be late on something, but it's my responsibility to be on top of it. But you got to go back 5 years. He's going back 5 years. He's just pulling stuff out. Like we've got to attack Tesla. And this is from Elon. At the point at which you believe that adding autonomy reduces injury, death, I think you have a moral obligation to deploy it, even though you're going to get sued and blamed by a lot of people. Because people whose lives you saved don't know that their lives were saved, and the people who do occasionally die or get injured, they definitely know, or their state does. So yeah, here's the thing. If you're in an accident where FSD is involved, let's say FSD reduces accidents 90%. The 90% whose accidents didn't happen don't necessarily appreciate that FSD saved their lives. But the 10% whose accidents were involved, they're going to blame FSD. And he doesn't process that. Now, here we go with Missy Cummings, and I'm going to explain Missy Cummings to you in a minute. Former NHTSA Senior Safety Advisor Missy Cummings. This is the person we objected to being on the NHTSA because she was anti-Tesla before she had that job. Said the surge in Tesla crashes is troubling. Tesla is having more severe and fatal crashes than people in a normal data set, she said, in responses to figures analyzed. Now, let's be clear. She is biased. Okay, she's flatly biased. There's no question that this woman is biased against Tesla. One likely cause is the expanded rollout over the past year and a half of full self-driving, which brings driver assistance to city and residential streets. The fact that anybody and everybody can have it, is it reasonable to expect that it might be leading to increased accident rates? Sure, absolutely. That the number of fatalities compared to overall crashes was also a concern. Well, but the NHTSA investigation isn't done, and she's not on the NHTSA. Now, let's go to... This is Missy Cummings back in 2020 before she was on the NHTSA. And this is her. Thomas Dieterich says, why not just keep it simple, Missy versus Elon? And Missy says, Gary Marcus would be there to hold me back. And it's her punching a guy out of a chair, right? She's describing herself knocking Elon out of a chair with a punch to the face, right? This is Missy Cummings. This is your independent expert who for 3+ years has wanted to punch Elon out. Right? This is who you're relying on. All the experts in the world you could talk to, you pick Missy Cummings, who has an open hostility towards Elon Musk and Tesla. I don't know. Maybe that's not a great choice, Faiz. Maybe you should be looking for other experts. And why not talk to James Dalma? Why not talk to Dave Lee? Why not talk to Omar? Why do you restrict yourself to only people you know are hostile to Elon and Tesla? It's unclear whether the data captures every crash involving Tesla's driver assistance system. NHTSA's data includes some incidents where it's unknown whether autopilot or full self-driving was in use. These include three fatalities, including one last year. Okay, now wait a minute. Tesla logs all the data. Tesla supplies all the data to the NHTSA. All these other car companies with ADAS systems and companies without ADAS systems, they're not getting all the data that Tesla's getting from their cars. Tesla is constantly uploading data. It has this massive cache of data that it's supplying to the NHTSA. So how is this a fair comparison when the other car companies don't collect the data in the first place? It's not a fair comparison. And he knows this. Look, Faiz Siddiqui has to choose. Either you're a fucking idiot, or you know and you're a fucking liar. Take your pick. So crashes involving Tesla's driver assistance system have grown. And you know, this is the funny thing. The volume of Tesla cars on the ground has grown much faster. And you can see the last quarter, there's a dip, even though the number of cars on the road and the number of cars using FSD has grown. And then you've got this other makes number is small. It's because they don't collect data and because there's a lot fewer of them. Tesla is the largest provider of cars with active ADAS systems that are widely used, because the other ADAS systems stink. People don't tend to use them as much, or they don't work in most circumstances. NHT began collecting the data in 2021. The total number of crashes involving the technology is minuscule compared with all road incidents. NHT estimates that more than 40,000 people died in wrecks of all kinds last year. And again, you know, look at the volume. Like, this justified repeated coverage from the Wall Street Journal. You know, huge article, shocking headline about how bad FSD is. Look at this headline again. The shocking toll of Tesla's autopilot. Wait a minute, we had 40,000 deaths in the past year, and maybe 2 of them are possibly related to autopilot, and that's the shocking toll? Like, why don't you admit that you're full of crap? I mean, it's just shocking. It's shocking to me that a formerly reputable news publication has taken itself down this much. I guess it's not shocking anymore. The vast majority of the 807 automated relation crashes have involved Tesla, the data show. Again, Tesla's collecting all the data and handing it off to NHTSA. The other car companies don't collect data in the same way. He knows this, and he's deliberately not saying it. I'm sorry, I don't think he's dumb enough to not know that. So, Faiz Siddiqui, you have to either tell us, are you that dumb, or are you lying? This is known. This is a known fact. That Tesla, and you literally, like, people have Teslas, they're tracking how much data the car's uploading every day, and it's like gigabytes of data daily that's being uploaded and sent over to Tesla. When there's a crash, it's reported. This Tesla has experimented more aggressively with automation than other automakers is also linked to almost all the deaths. Well, it's because almost all the data is Tesla data. Subaru ranks second with 23 reported crashes since 2019. Reported crashes! How is Subaru number 2? Why wouldn't Toyota be number 2? Toyota or Volkswagen are the largest car makers, right? They do 10 million a year. Subaru's a low volume car maker. This is an obvious problem, right? Subaru is not a huge car maker. Subaru's probably below number 10 on the list. Wouldn't you expect Toyota or Volkswagen to be at least number 2 on the list, if not number 1 and number 2 on the list? And Tesla number 3, because they have a much higher volume of cars. Toyota and Volkswagen sell 10 million cars a year worldwide. General Motors and Ford sell more cars in the United States than Tesla. And they've got huge volumes of cars on the road. So either they're not using ADAS systems at all, their ADAS systems are so bad people don't use them, or they're not collecting the data, or all of the above. The enormous gulf probably reflects wider deployment and use of automation across Tesla's fleet of vehicles, as well as the wider range of circumstances in which Tesla drivers are encouraged to use autopilot. We're not really ever encouraged to use autopilot. The car never says, hey, turn autopilot on. You have to make a conscious choice to use autopilot. The car never says, hey, use autopilot. I mean, you know, within the Tesla community, we're all talk about using autopilot and FSD, but in general, the average Tesla owner who's not watching Tesla YouTube videos and FSD beta YouTube videos, where are they getting this encouragement? But again, isn't it obvious that Toyota and Volkswagen, much larger volume car makers than Subaru, should probably, like, isn't it shocking that Subaru ranks second? Why isn't there investigation of why Subaru ranks second? Because Faiz is an idiot. That's why. Okay. Sorry. Autopilot, which Tesla introduced in 2014, is a suite of features. Okay, so Autopilot was introduced in 2014, has been updated many times. What's currently on the road is very different from Autopilot from 2014. Enabled the car to maneuver itself from highway on-ramp to off-ramp, maintaining speed and distance behind other vehicles and following lane lines. Offers it as a standard feature. Full self-driving experimental feature. There's also enhanced Autopilot, by the way, that does a little bit more than regular Autopilot. Full self-driving experimental feature allows Teslas to move from point A to point B by following turn-by-turn directions along a route, halting for stop signs and traffic lights, making turns and lane changes, responding to hazards along the way. With either system, Tesla says drivers must monitor the road and intervene when necessary. Yeah, and there's enhanced autopilot, there's full self-driving without beta, and there's full self-driving beta. So there's a variety of situations here, and you have to make a conscious effort to enable FSD beta if you have FSD. So the uptick in crashes coincides with Tesla's aggressive rollout of full self-driving. This is full self-driving beta now, okay, which has expanded from around 12,000 users to nearly 400,000 a little more than a year. It's 400,000 FSD beta users. Nearly 2/3 of all driver assistance crashes that Tesla's reported NHTSA occurred in the past year. Well, nearly 2/3, that's a little more than half. I think the reporting demands increased, and Tesla has a lot more cars on the road. Philip Koopman, a Carnegie Mellon professor who's conducted research on autonomous vehicle safety for 25 years, said the prevalence of Teslas in the data raises crucial questions. A significantly higher number is certainly a cause for concern. Dude, any of these people realize that the other companies aren't uploading data? The reason that there's more data, it's like so blindingly obvious that Tesla is actually collecting all the data and handing it over to NHTSA. The other companies are like, data? We don't have data. Where's the data? We don't have data. Our cars don't crash. We don't use our ADAS systems. We don't know. They don't have the upload ability. They literally, their cars do not upload the data. Tesla cars upload the data. A significantly higher number certainly is a cause for concern. Yeah, if you don't know why, we need to understand if it's due to actually worse crashes. There's some other factors, such as a dramatically large number of miles being driven with autopilot on, and a larger number of cars uploading data. In February, Tesla issued a recall of more than 360,000 vehicles. Okay, it's not. Call it a recall. It's an over-the-air update. The cars update themselves constantly. We're getting updates like once every couple weeks, once a month. The software is updated all the time. It's not a recall. I didn't have to drive into the Tesla dealer, the Tesla service center, and have the car updated. It's just, hey, we're updating your software. Issued a recall of more than 360,000 vehicles equipped with full self-driving over concerns that the software prompted its vehicles to disobey traffic lights, stop signs, and speed limits. Because human drivers always follow stop signs, traffic lights, and speed limits. Look, I can set my Tesla to drive faster than the speed limit. If you have cruise control, you can set your cruise control to drive faster than the speed limit. The car does not go faster than you let it go. It's really annoying, honestly. The car has a maximum speed. FSD has a maximum speed of 85 miles an hour. I think cruise control is 90 miles an hour. When you're on roads in Texas where the speed limit is 85 miles an hour and the car won't go faster than 85 miles an hour, it's really annoying, and the cars behind you get really annoyed. The car is not choosing to disobey speed limits. We set the speed limit that the driver tells the car, this is the maximum speed I want you. You can set your car, don't go over the speed limit. It won't go over the speed limit. When the new speed limit sign comes up, it will slow down quickly to the new speed limit. It actually got better at that recently. That was a dramatic improvement. The flouting of traffic laws, documents posted by the safety agency said, could increase the risk of collision if the driver does not intervene. Now, one of the things here that I think the one that's best known is that the car would not always come to a complete stop at stop signs because it's learning from human drivers, and we don't come to complete stops at stop signs when we don't need to. So they actually force the cars to come to complete stops at stop signs where humans don't normally come to a complete stop, annoying the drivers behind us. It's a total ignorance of the reality of driving. And Tesla did remedy the issues with an over-the-air software update remotely addressing the risk. They didn't call it risk. While Tesla constantly tweaked its driver assistance software, it also took the unprecedented step of eliminating its radar sensors. Unprecedented? What other car company even had radar sensors on a widely distributed ADAS system that was used by hundreds of thousands of drivers? Everything Tesla does is unprecedented because nobody has done anything like this before. It's like he's just using big words to try to make his story better. The unprecedented step of eliminating its radar sensors from new cars and disabling them from vehicles already on the road. Not disabling the sensors, it's ignoring the sensors. It doesn't use their data anymore. Depriving them of a critical sensor. No, depriving them of a non-critical sensor, depriving them of a sensor that was causing problems with the driving and increasing phantom braking. Musk pushed a simpler hardware set amid the global computer chip shortage. It had nothing to do with the global computer chip shortage. And Musk said last year only very high resolution radar is relevant. It has recently taken steps to reintroduce radar sensors, according to government filings first reported by Electrek. As far as anybody knows, they still have not reintroduced radar sensors. There's some talk that Tesla's going to introduce a high definition radar. I think it's high definition, not high resolution, but same thing. There's some talk that they may incorporate high resolution radar into the cars, but everything that we've seen so far, people looking at the latest supposedly hardware for vehicles, there's still no radar in the cars, as far as we know. And, you know, friends don't let friends read Electrek, let's be honest. In a March presentation, Tesla claimed, see, now at least this time, he admits it's Tesla saying it, not Elon. Tesla claimed full self-driving crashes at a rate at least 5 times lower than vehicles in normal driving in a comparison of miles driven per collision. That claim, and Musk's characterization of autopilot is unequivocally safer, is impossible to test without access to the detailed data that Tesla possesses. Yeah, but the NHTSA has the data. You've just acknowledged that the NHTSA has the data. You don't have the data, and you wouldn't have to do it if you had it. We know that NHTSA shows that Tesla cars are safer in crashes. He doesn't even mention, by the way, the efforts that Tesla has gone, the efforts that Tesla has gone to, I think I'm saying that right, to use their own crash data and simulate crashes to make the airbags and the seatbelt pretensioners more effective, so that the seatbelt pretensioners, the seatbelt tightens before the crash even starts now, because the car recognizes it's going to be in a crash and tightens the belt. No mention of the Model Y that went off a cliff, that a human driver chose to drive off a cliff, trying to kill himself and his family, and everyone survived. Teslas are the safest cars on the road. He won't say it. He won't admit it. He won't acknowledge it, because he's a liar, and he's a fraud, and he's a hitman. Autopilot, largely a highway system, operates in a less complex environment than the range of situations. Yeah. It's unclear which of the systems was in use in the fatal crashes. As far as I know, autopilot today is basically using the vision system anyway. Tesla's asked NHTSA not to disclose that information. It says, redacted may contain confidential business information. Are companies required to divulge everything to the general public? Do you have General Motors data? Do you have Subaru's data? You don't have access to anybody else's data. Why is it a big deal that you don't have access to Tesla's data? Because you're a hitman. Autopilot and full self-driving come under scrutiny in recent years. Pete Buttigieg told the Associated Press that autopilot is not an appropriate name when the fine print says you need to have your hands on the wheel and eyes on the road at all times. What do they call it when a pilot flies a plane? It's called autopilot. He still has to be in the cockpit. He still has to pay attention. They don't let the pilot go for a walk in the plane while autopilot's flying the plane. They have to have 2 pilots, so that if one guy goes to the bathroom, the other guy's watching. That's autopilot. Nobody thinks that autopilot means the pilot's taking a nap in the plane. We all expect that our pilots are paying attention when we're flying in a plane. So autopilot is appropriate. Tesla's crashes and other problems with its driver assistance software. One is focused on, I missed something there. Oh, NHTSA has opened multiple probes into Tesla's crashes and other problems with its driver assistance software. Yes, it's true that the NHTSA is persecuting Tesla for making safer cars than anyone else. I don't know. Phantom braking is real. I experience phantom braking. I experience it every once in a while. Personally, my experience is not that bad, and if you're paying attention, you hit the accelerator pedal when it happens. In one case last year, detailed by The Intercept, a Tesla Model S, allegedly using driver assistance, suddenly braked in traffic on the San Francisco Bay Bridge, resulting in an 8-car pileup that led 9 people injured, including a 2-year-old child. Okay, so this is a human driver problem. The human driver is supposed to be paying attention and is supposed to hit the accelerator pedal if the car brakes or acts inappropriately. The human driver is responsible, right? In other complaints filed with NHTSA, owners say the car slammed on the brakes when encountering semi-trucks in oncoming lanes. Don't we want the car to slam on the brakes when it encounters a semi-truck in an oncoming lane? I think you want it to slam the brakes when there's a semi coming at you. Am I missing something here? Am I reading this wrong? Cars slammed on brakes when encountering semi-trucks in oncoming lanes. If there's a semi in an oncoming lane coming at me, then I probably want it to slow down. I'm just saying. We currently have an issue with narrow roads, and I've had this issue before in the past with narrow roads where the car kind of gets sketchy on narrow roads. It's learning. Human drivers have to be responsible. Many crashes involve similar settings and conditions. NHTSA has received more than a dozen reports of Tesla slamming into parked emergency vehicles while while allegedly in autopilot. Let's get this straight. While allegedly in autopilot. I know at least one of those, it's later turned out the car was not on autopilot. My car is so freaking careful around emergency lights. It slows down if it sees anything that looks remotely like emergency lights. Upgraded its investigation. Woohoo. Also last year, opened 2 consecutive special investigations into fatal crashes involving Tesla vehicles and motorcyclists. One occurred in Utah. This was in, I know I did a video about this not that long ago. My car sees motorcycles. The driver of the Tesla did not see the motorcyclist and collided with the back of the motorcycle, which threw the rider from the bike, the Utah Department of Public Safety said. The driver of the Tesla did not see the motorcyclist. Read what they said. The driver of the Tesla did not see the motorcyclist and collided with the back of the motorcycle. That's not autopilot didn't see it. That's saying the human driver screwed up. The motorcyclist died. And Cummings said it's very dangerous for motorcycles to be around Teslas. It's very dangerous for motorcyclists to be around cars. Motorcycles are dangerous, period. I don't ride motorcycles. Motorcyclists know that human drivers don't see them. This is just a hit piece. And again, Missy Cummings wants to punch Elon. Of hundreds of Tesla driver assistance crashes, NHTSA has focused on about 40 Tesla incidents for further analysis, hoping to gain deeper insight. Going back to the story about this guy, Mitchell, the driver was charged with multiple offenses in the crash, including reckless driving, passing a stopped school bus, and striking a person, a Class 1 felony. The driver was charged, and I love how this ends. Authorities said he had fixed weights to the steering wheel to trick autopilot into registering the presence of a driver's hands. In other words, this guy deliberately tampered with the system to make, which you could do with a regular car, right? You could just put a brick on the accelerator pedal and the car will go. Okay? You can't fix stupid. If he tried to defeat the safety systems that Tesla deployed on the vehicle, and these people blame Tesla for this guy deliberately tampering with the safety system. Right here, right? They keep that guy in their thoughts. This guy deliberately tampered with the safety system. We don't want his life ruined over a simple accident, but they need to ban automated driving. That's how he closes the article. This is just a hit piece. All right, let me. What's the other thing I wanted to talk about? Oh, I wanted to talk about the supercharger thing. Ford and General Motors have reached agreement with Tesla that they're going to equip their vehicles to use Tesla superchargers, to use the NACS standard. This is probably the end of CCS in the United States over the long haul. Of course, the Biden administration wants to keep a crappy system going longer. And so they've said that Tesla, is going to need this. So, number one, some Tesla people panic that, oh no, there's going to be all these Fords and GMs using our superchargers, and that means we'll have to wait longer. I never wait for a supercharger. In almost 2 years of driving Teslas, I think I've waited to use a supercharger like twice. Florida, at least, has ample superchargers. Tesla's adding a lot of superchargers. Tesla has shown that the wait times at superchargers, to the extent that there are any, have gone down, that the charge time has gone down, that the charging experience is better. And there's such a low volume of Fords and General Motors that this is not going to be a significant impact. N1 says the car did phantom brake, though, not a problem. Look, phantom braking is a problem. Yeah, and if you pay attention, you catch it, and over time, the car gets better. This is the whole point about having FSD in a lot of hands, having the cars driving, is as the car makes mistakes, it learns from its mistakes and it gets better. It's not going to get better if we don't expose it to the real world, and it gets better if we expose it to the real world and human drivers correct it, and it makes its own corrections as well. Clearslow Medical says we have the Magic Dock stations here in New York. Still never wait. Yeah, there's a few supercharger stations. I think it's in New York where they added the Magic Dock where other EVs can charge there, and it's not causing a wait. Brothels in rural Nevada should have superchargers, just enough time to get a full charge. You can get a charge in 5 minutes. Tesla's only opening about half the U.S. superchargers. They're not even opening anywhere near half the superchargers. It's much less than half that they've done the Magic Dock on. It's only, I don't know, there's like, I don't know, 10,000 superchargers and 8 of them have the Magic Dock so far. They'll get there. Jose Bellarmino says, if there's a town somewhere in the middle of America that has more Ford and GM EVs than Teslas, that's a fantasy. Wouldn't you want them to charge a Tesla supercharger and give Tesla that money? So let's talk about this for a second. As I see it, Tesla revenue from superchargers and profits from superchargers is something. It's potentially $1 billion or $2 or $3 billion a year in profit, but it's in the long run less than 1% of Tesla's profit. It's not a huge factor for that. LJ says, hey, Warren, can you give a quick summary of why you like Model X, also what you don't like about Model X's? I have the Model X Plaid 2022, ridiculously fast, super comfortable, great driving car, super safe. I got hit. If you check my Twitter, I got hit the other day. I wasn't able to engage FSD yet. I just come out of a parking lot, can't engage when you're approaching intersections, you can't engage FSD. So I turned out of a parking lot, turned onto a road, right approaching an intersection. At that intersection, this guy left turned and hit my left front wheel. Very clearly his fault. He admits it's his fault. His car looked really bad, and mine looked like it's gotten like minor damage. And I just had an estimate; it appears to be minor damage. 5,300 pounds makes it a very safe car. It's probably the safest car on the road. The Falcon Wing doors are cool. When the doors open like this, a lot of room inside. Pretty good range. It's better than, I think it's got more range than anything except any Model 3 or Y, except maybe the long range Model 3 is now the same range. Model X long range has more range than the Model 3 long range, just a little bit. It's kind of a brick going into the wind at high speed. You lose a lot of range. Falcon Wing doors. I think that Model X's and S's, just for the future of the company, I think Model X's and S's require more maintenance. They're more likely to go in for some kind of minor repairs. And I think that adds to the cost to Tesla of selling these cars. So I think in the long run, they're probably going to ditch Model X and Model S and come up with a much better designed Model X in particular. Solar canopy and battery at every supercharger. What does that do to the financials? I think it will happen over time that they'll use more solar. The battery, don't forget to amortize the cost of the panels and the battery. It's not free. There's a cost to all of that. And the mega I think I did the numbers, and a mega pack could charge about 80 vehicles, so that doesn't necessarily cover a whole day. Do I still think there's no Highland Model 3? Yes, I think there's no Highland Model 3. I've been saying this I don't think anybody can even say what Project Highland is. There's so many different answers to what Project Highland is. There's been talks about an economic slowdown and a stock market crash for the second half of the year. What are your thoughts on this? I just did a video where I cautioned people, look, the stock is up. Be careful. There's a lot of risks on the horizon. Maybe everything goes okay, but there's serious risk of a commercial real estate crisis, a regional bank crisis, and maybe a residential real estate crisis. Do Teslas change to the speed limit when the speed limit changes when on autopilot? What happens is I have my Tesla set to go 15% over the speed limit. So if I'm going 30, the car will go 35. When the speed limit changes to 30, I think it goes to 35. If the speed limit changes to 60, it goes to like 69 miles an hour. It goes to whatever you've set it to go to when the speed limit changes. So it will lower speed when you change into a lower speed zone very quickly now. It used to be slow at doing that. It got a lot quicker. Many older people driving dumb cars causing a lot of accidents. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is 40,000 fatalities a year, and you're focusing on Tesla vehicles being involved in a few fatalities a year. They're the safest cars on the road. Why don't you focus on the cars that aren't safe? Do you think that as a manufacturer, the best charging network that Tesla may build charging areas with the Ford or GM badges? No, I don't think they're going to build charging areas with the Ford or GM badges. I think this is a challenge for Ford and GM to send their vehicle owners to Tesla branded charging stations. Heard much about Maxwell trucks with the Model 3 powertrain. I've not heard about that at all. Do I think the European Union will relent and switch over to the North American charging standard? No, I don't think there's any chance that Europe's going to switch to NACS. I think they're going to switch to C. They're going to keep CCS. They have a high volume of vehicles with CCS. They're probably going to keep it. um, any info on Tesla Gigafactory India? There's rumors all the time about Tesla opening a Gigafactory. Now it's India, then it's Spain, then it's Korea. We'll know where the next Gigafactory is when we know when the next Gigafactory is. Almost nobody called Mexico, and Mexico was the next one. So I still think Japan is the best location for a new Gigafactory. My sense is that it's not going to be Japan, basically, at this point. I think with Hiroshi Mizuno leaving the Tesla board, that's a sign that it's not happening. Did the width of the Model X bother you at all, or did you just get used to it? I don't know why the width of the Model X would bother me. I like the width of the Model X. What would I not like about a wider vehicle? I'm an American. I like bigger vehicles. Yeah, I don't have a problem with the width at all. I mean, if you're going into a tight space, it's a little annoying, but if you've got people getting out of the back seat, it's easy with the Falcon Wing doors. So, all right, I got about 5 minutes left on this live stream, and then I'm going to be doing a second live stream on the Daily Lie talking about Trump's indictment. I don't tend to talk about politics on YouTube, so I'm going to go through the Trump indictment in the next video. It's going to be on the Daily Lie. There's a link in the top of the chat, and there's a link in the top of the video description. Can Tesla cars record video through their cameras? Yes. Does enabling video recording require any additional cost? No. I'm interested in using it as evidence in case of accident. So when you're in an accident, there's a button, or in any incident, there's a button on the screen that's like dash cam, and you tap it and you get a recording of the last 60 minutes. So I was in an accident. If you go to my Twitter, you can see I use my phone to record from the screen. And there's a way of getting the original video. I didn't bother. But it showed I was able to find the moment when the crash happened and record it. So you just tap the dash cam button, and it could be 45 minutes later, you're still going to catch it. Is Tesla Japan building out superchargers? I believe they are building out superchargers, but much less quickly than they are in, say, the United States or China or Europe. Everything is bigger in Texas, yes. Thank you, Mark Potachnik. Yeah, you can hit the honk. You can hit the horn button to record as well. Okay, just really quick, in my accident, I was going straight. There's a car coming the other way, getting ready to make a left turn. As I'm approaching the intersection, maybe, I don't know, a quarter of a second or a third of a second before I enter the intersection. A couple of frames, honestly. That's probably a tenth of a second. It actually starts making the turn. And I get into the intersection. It's still barely in its turn. And it just keeps coming, and I swerve right and brake to avoid it. Showed the video to the police officer. The police officer wrote the other guy a ticket, or at least told me he was writing the other guy a ticket. I reported the accident to his insurance. He reported it to his insurance. He didn't report it to my insurance. I tried to report it to my insurance. They wouldn't take the report because I wasn't making a claim. I'm making a claim against his insurance. So yeah, definitely records. How can Texas not have direct sales with the friendly governor to Tesla? Because the legislature is the legislature, and car dealers have a lot of power. I'm going back to look in the chat here. I'm going to wrap up in a couple minutes, but Joe K back up earlier in the chat says, I just was told years ago that my car is vision only, not sure about the garage sensors. They may still function. So Tesla basically eliminated stopped using the radar and stopped using the ultrasonic sensors. There's these sensors on the side of the car, like 12 of them around the car, that use sound waves to detect what's nearby. Again, a noisy signal, not a great signal. Tesla's determined that they could have a better sense of what's around the car just by cameras alone. So they stopped installing ultrasonic sensors in the cars, which saves money, allows Tesla to sell cars for less money. All right. So I think that's everything that's been in the chat. Let's see. I've seen a Tesla crack in half in the driver's front door. The hood was gone. It looked like a trunk where the engine goes in a car. I've seen a Tesla crack in half in the driver's front door. Yeah, I mean, the Teslas are designed to absorb crash impacts and protect the occupants of the vehicle, and they do a really good job at it. Yeah, stainless steel water bottles and t-shirts. This is the insanely gigantic t-shirt. Lots of t-shirts at elonbits.com. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you to Jim and Mark. Mark Plott wasn't able to be here today, but I want to thank moderators for helping with the chat. T-shirts at elonbits.com. Insanely gigantic. This is a reference to the value of a robotaxi future, the value that robotaxis generate in a robotaxi future. It's absolutely huge. So thanks to the moderators. Thanks everybody so much for watching. Check out the T-shirts at elonbits.com. Please check out my other videos. I'll be on Locals. Support me on the Locals platform, Patreon, or as a YouTube channel member, or as a Twitter subscriber. I'm going to Locals in 4 minutes to talk about the Trump indictment. So thanks everybody so much for watching. We'll see you soon. No, I'm not confident Cybertruck will be released in September.